Hello, we are Vera and Wil, two of the three co-founders of Filipino Canadian Researchers and Scientists, or FiCaRS. First, we would like to introduce what FiCaRS is all about. Wil?
Yep. So as Vera mentioned, I am one of the co-founders of FiCaRS, but I'm here to celebrate the two women co-founders of this emerging initiative. One is Vera, who is with me, and the other is Annabelle, who is the co-creator of the Filipinos of HamOnt. FiCaRS is a newly established collective by and for individuals of Philippine ancestry in Canada. We are in the fields of research and science, and we want to reach out to Phil Canadians across disciplines in the humanities, social sciences, and the natural and physical sciences.
Yes, and also this is open across all sectors of research and science, be it in the academia, community, industry, and the government sectors. Maybe you are wondering why Wil and I are here taking over the Filipinos of HamOnt's page for this hour. FiCaRS and Filipinos of HamOnt are celebrating the International Women's Month together. We are highlighting the work of Filipino Canadians. We would like to learn about how their work bring about systematic change for the Philippine Canadian community and other racialized communities. Today, we are interviewing a trailblazing Filipina Canadian in STEM.
So we at FiCaRS and Filipinos of HamOnt are delighted to hear about Pueblo Science Executive Director and University of Toronto chemist Dr. Mayrose Salvador. Dr. Mayrose Salvador is a Filipino Canadian scientist, innovator, and educator. She received her B.Sc in chemistry from the University of the Philippines and her PhD in physical chemistry from the University of Toronto. She has completed her postdoctoral training at the University of Minnesota and the University of Toronto. As a scientist, Dr. Salvador has done amazing work. Mayrose, why don't you talk about your work in advanced materials, nanomaterials, and the environment? Just a few words would be great.
Thank you, Phil, and hello, Vera. Thank you for having me here today. Good afternoon, everyone. My work has been at the University of Toronto. My research has been in nanomaterials. So I was working with semiconductor quantum dots, and we were using very, very fast lasers, ultra fast lasers, to look at the properties and sort of create novel materials that are going to be better for solar cell applications, for example.
Apart from being a well-cited scientist with over 500 citations, Mayrose is also an educator. She taught chemistry at the University of the Philippines and the University of Toronto. As the CEO of Pueblo Science, she has led the training of over 3,000 teachers around the world. She's appeared in ABS-CBN Global TV and Canadian Media Network as she continues to popularize science for the general public. Dr. Salvador is passionate about using technology to solve community problems. She was involved in developing iron-fortified snacks for kids and in creating a field diagnostic tool for safely harvesting crops. In collaboration with the Impact Center at the University of Toronto, she also helped deploy affordable solar lighting to the indigenous communities and facilitated an innovation challenge in the Philippines. Dr. Salvador is a recipient of the Outstanding Young Filipino Entrepreneurs and Professional Award, the Ontario Centers of Excellence, Social Entrepreneurship Award, and MyTax Canada Fellowship. Mayrose, we would like it if you'd like to add more to how we introduced you.
Well, I'm really an educator, a very passionate educator, and that's why I started Pueblo Science, which you kind of mentioned. I grew up in the Philippines. I'm a Filipino. I was born in the Philippines, in a remote area in northern Philippines, and I was passionate, and I was privileged enough to get a very good education from the best universities in the Philippines as well as here in Canada. And it's always been my passion to help those kids, the next generation that are still in remote communities of the Philippines to be able to fulfill and get to their full potential. And so that's why that was one of the driving forces why I started Pueblo Science.
Okay, that's great. No, thanks so much. And this actually sets the stage for our next question. So, you did speak a little bit about some of your background, especially as you grew up in the Philippines. But maybe could you also tell us a bit more about how your interest in science started to really help in, kind of your pathway to that all the way up to the founding of Pueblo Science?
I think it's very crucial, and that's what we keep in mind while doing the work with Pueblo Science, that we get the interest of kids in STEM or in science, technology, engineering, and math very early on. And I was very fortunate enough that I had a few good teachers in elementary and high school. We had this uh, project of creating a mosquito coil, anti-mosquito coil when I was in elementary school. And that was a science fair project that we actually got to take all the way to the regional level. And I think those were the start of my interest in science. And I guess I was kind of lucky enough that I was good in science and math early on, and so I had an affinity for those subjects. But that's something that we try to tell kids these days. Knowledge, whether it's STEM, science, technology, engineering, or math, is something that you can actually learn, and it's not something that's innate. And so I think it's very important that we tell kids that, and that's what Pueblo Science tries to show when we try to deliver our program, and we show them that science and math and technology learning is actually a lot of fun by doing a lot of experiments, for example, like the science fair project that I did in elementary school.
That's really cool. That's very well said. So, when you were on your way to where you are now, what particular struggles and who supported you in these struggles or challenges along the way?
Coming from a very remote area, and then it's probably similar to you. You get dropped in the University of the Philippines. It's where all the smartest people in the Philippines are gathered. And so all of a sudden you are almost out of your elements. You were like the best in your province or in your school, right? And then everyone else in that school was better than you. And sometimes that's really hard in the beginning, but it's good because with challenges like that, you strive to do better. And when you're able to overcome it, you can be successful. And so that's something that you learn early on in your first year. And you learn to survive. Basically, it's not enough anymore that you are good with your books, with perfecting exams. I learned that it's good to have friends because my family is all back home. And so, adjusting to a new environment, you need those friends to be able to enjoy life after preparing for an exam.
That's great. Yeah. And I really hear you a lot of the times, especially whenever I think back to my undergrad and grad school days, it really helped to have a lot of great friends along the way because, yeah, it can get very tough, especially when there's a lot of exams or a lot of deadlines to get to. And really, your friends really are, a very huge source of, motivation, I would say. And it's a great place to vent as well sometimes about our frustrations to them. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything else, Vera?
I just want to add as well. Like, I think it's also important, like your lab environment when you become a grad student, right? Like, Canadians are really good people, I think. So, moving from the Philippines to Canada is also
for sure. It was really nice that at the Department of Chemistry there is a chemistry club. It's very unique for the University of Toronto, and that club is actually funded by it's funding. We get funding by selling books and other lab material goods to undergraduate, and so you kind of get a budget where you can organize things that you do with everyone in the department. You get to meet them on Fridays through donuts, and we get to go camping and skiing for a very discounted price, and so you basically are able to, like I said a while ago, enjoy life at the same time. Increase your network. Like you get to meet a lot of people who are already doing graduate studies, and later on these people went in sort of various fields and are very successful in their own careers.
Yeah, that's great. And participating in a lot of these clubs did really help us a lot as well. Like when I was an undergrad, I was part of the Filipino Students Association, and yeah, again, helped expanded my network as well. Even in grad school with the Cell and Systems Biology grad union as well, I still keep in touch with a lot of my friends from there. But yeah, this is very important, especially whenever we're going through the daily challenges of life. With Pueblo Science, you help promote science literacy around the world. How do you think your science education leadership speaks to the Filipino Canadian community and the Indigenous Black women of color? How do you see it fit into the broader social movements relating to diversity, inclusion, and equity?
So, Pueblo Science is a Toronto-based charity focused on advancing science, technology, engineering, and math education in low-resource communities in Canada and in the developing countries. Since we were founded in 2010, our programs have impacted over 400,000 children, and we have a combination of local and international programs that is designed to engage young students and spark the interest in STEM through active hands-on experiences, discovery, experimentation, and problem-solving opportunities in their communities. We know from studies that women are usually underrepresented in many fields of STEM, for example, in computer science, in engineering, and in physics. And I personally think that this is due to the lack of role models and mentors who can show young girls that STEM is fun and that a career in STEM is attainable, acceptable, and well respected. So, having those women role models in science and having mentors is helpful to show young girls what is possible, how success can be achieved, and what are the roadblocks along the way that can be overcome. At Pueblo Science, our vision is to have a world where all youth are equipped with scientific knowledge that empowers them to become the next generation of problem solvers, critical thinkers, and innovators. So through our program, we show that STEM learning is fun through experimentation, like I mentioned. And we also nurture a lot of women teachers teaching science and support mentorship programs, connecting women science professionals to young girls. We also bring our programs to remote communities in the Philippines, Guyana, Jamaica, and Thailand. And two of the countries that I mentioned to you are, they have a lot of women of color. Guyana and Jamaica in particular are mostly African as well as Indian descent. We also help spread the word and celebrate achievements of women of science through our blogs, our social media. And finally, we make sure that everyone who attends our program are able, like the kids, are able to see that STEM is really fun to learn. And if they suffer any setback, we make sure that they are encouraged to try again, because we know that eventually that they will get it.
Wow. Yeah, you have a lot going on. You've helped. It seems like you've reached a lot of people, and you've reached a lot of different ethnic backgrounds. How do you think? How do you think? How can we make more Filipino Canadian women and non-binary individuals be interested in our field? I mean, in science.
Yeah, that's a great question because that's exactly what we're trying to achieve here as well at Pueblo Science. Like I mentioned a while ago, the best way to get them is to get them early on. So we need to encourage young girls to engage in STEM, and the best way to do that is through hands-on learning. You learn by doing. You get to learn about electricity by, for example, building a wind turbine that can power an LED, as simple as that, or creating batteries from fruit or from plants. Um, and I personally think that, like I mentioned a while ago, there is a lack of role models and mentors who can show young Filipino Canadian women and non-binary individuals that STEM is fun and is a career that is attainable, acceptable, and respected. Um, Young women and non-binary individuals need mentors who can show them what is possible and how to do it. And if there are roadblocks along the way, then they should be able to go to somebody and access these mentors and be able to get advice to get to the next level.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I hear you on that. I mean, sometimes I think about my own journey to grad school, and I think about my mom, where she came from the Philippines here to Canada. They didn't recognize her undergraduate degree from Philippine women, so she ended up going back to Ryerson University to complete her undergrad degree. But at the same time, after that, she's still hungry for more, so she actually went back to the University of Toronto to complete her master's degree, all while raising us, me and my brothers as well. And yeah, there was to me that was also an example of as a woman, and despite having a family, and also at first coming to Canada and not having your degree recognized, right? Like, she pushed through it all, and having more people and having more of their stories highlighted, especially in our community, would probably be very helpful as young Filipino and Filipino Canadians really navigate what to do as they grow up.
For sure, you're very lucky that you had you have a role model right there at
Yeah.
your home
Yeah.
early on. So
That's very lucky.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, it doesn't come without roadblocks, right? Like I myself is a single mother, and when I started my grad school, I already have a 1-year-old boy by myself, and yeah, I mean, nothing is easy, but if you can do it, because Will's parents was able to do it, I was able to do it, May was able to do it, Bill was able to. There's a lot of people who are, and we're here to help anyone who needs help.
that sounds great. Yeah, and really, it's I was mentioning a while ago about building a network, and the older we get, we realize that. But when we're studying, we don't. We're very focused on completing the exams and excelling. But really, after that, it's the network, because they can act as your support in terms of your personal life as well as to advance in your career. And it's good that you guys are building this network now.
Yeah, so yeah, we'd love to see how it grows over the coming months. All right, so moving on. So the next question we have for you is, what do you consider as your greatest strength, and how do you hold on to it when times are particularly difficult?
That's easy. I like to laugh and make friends. It all stops there. It begins there and it stops there. And so, times don't really get so tough when you're laughing and sharing doing a project or sharing stories with your friends, and you find people that actually shares the mission or the vision with how you want to impact the world, then it's really, really amazing to work with those friends and colleagues. And so, yeah.
So,
It's
yeah.
always great to have a sense of humor, especially
sure.
whenever times get tough. Yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
And Filipinos are very good at that, right? Like we laugh at everything, including typhoons or floods. Like, yeah, really,
We
really
have to
bad
be
natural.
resilient. Yeah, we had to be resilient. We were in Iloilo with training teachers at the Philippine Science High School, and then after the training for 3 days, we actually went and visited. You know, when Typhoon Haiyan, I think that's where it touched down, and so one of our tour guide. So they have beautiful islands there. So you go island hopping. Our tour guide was telling us about how when the typhoon was coming in, they were gathered in an island. In one of the islands, they basically the barangay captain gathered them in a school, and all of them were in that school, and they were seeing their houses fly, and if someone's house actually was just flew, everyone was there like clapping, like they were just it became like a festival, because it was a helpless situation. But that's how you can see resilience, as well as how Filipinos take everything and turn it around and get some entertainment out of it. And then apparently after the typhoon passed and nobody actually died, which was amazing, the barangay captain hosted a party for the whole barangay. So, everyone lost their homes, but still they were partying. And that shows you how resilient everyone is. And when you hear that story, it makes you cry, but at the same time you're proud of them, that they're able to laugh in the face of disaster, and then recover again, right? So
Yeah, and resilience is a very important trait of a scientist, right? So that's one thing going on for Filipinos.
for sure, with all your ups and downs, you get a data, you're very, very happy. Now you have to make sense of it. You get a public, so that's the down, right? And then you get that publication, and you're super happy, and then it's a roller coaster ride, and for sure we are trained to be resilient already.
So, do you have any advice for young Filipino Canadians who are keen to start their careers in science and science education?
Marami. Ilang gusto mo? Joke.
We can go on all day.
I think being book smart is not enough. Getting all those high scores or high grades is not really what's important while studying. It's more so to learn how to problem solve, and so you gotta be able to do that. That's what school gives you, and then make sure to develop your soft skills early on. I did not realize those until I probably finished grad school. For example, learn to sell an idea, sell yourself for a job interview or a vision for a project. Another advice is to build your network and nurture it. And you can do that by collaborating on projects that are not just related to school assignments. That's where you will meet your network. That's where you will meet your friends for life. Another advice is to find a good mentor. I've been talking about this since the very beginning, who can help you carve your own path. And finally, don't forget to have fun.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, we were so happy to have you on today. And also to hear about your journey as well as the amazing work that you do with Pueblo Science. Vera, do you have any final words?
No, it's. I mean, I've met Mayrose like 2-3 years ago, but I haven't really heard her story. So this is really good, and this is really inspiring, and I think all the Filipino Canadians, youth, or those who are currently struggling, going through grad school, they need to hear you. They need to hear your story and be inspired. I think that's one thing that's not, we're not really, not really taught well in at least for me, when I was going through university and high school, is the networking bit, because you're either a nerd or you're a social butterfly. It seems like. So, yes. Although you have although if you are somebody who is a nerd and not so much a social butterfly, it's not too late. Like Mayrose said, she herself is kind of like a late bloomer, but it's not too late. We can still advance our career wherever we are.
And the key thing there is, and I learned this. I have a very good story in grad school where I learned that when you need help, there's lots of people who are really willing to lend a hand. I think I was already in my 4th year, and I was trying to create a model for the research that I mentioned in the beginning. I've done a few publications, but you kind of want to wrap it up. And I've been working on the theory for months already, and I wasn't going anywhere. So at midnight, in grad school, you're still in school at midnight, right? And I emailed this professor that I've been reading his paper about. And he is based in Korea, actually. And so I said, I've been getting this, I've been working on this problem for some time now, and I think you could really help. Can I get some of your time? And, it's midnight. He replies 30 minutes later, and he said, why don't you come to Korea and let's figure this out? I will pay for your stay here, but I can't pay for your flight. So the next day, I went home at 2 a.m. That's when I finished my measurements. I went to talk to my supervisor, and I said, oh, Professor Minheng is interested in helping me, but he can't fly me to Korea. Can you fly me to Korea? And then we'll work on this project. And 2 weeks later, I was in Korea. A month after, we had a full paper together. So that was amazing. Like, if I didn't do that when things seemed desperate at midnight and that day that I emailed that professor, it would not have happened, right? To this day, that paper is still being cited. So yeah, that's another lesson that I want to impart. If you need help, and make sure that you've done your assignment, you've done everything that you can, then ask for help, because like I said, a lot of people are more than willing to lend a hand.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayrose.
Thank you again for your time, and thanks for joining us on this special interview with Dr. Mayrose Salvador.
Yay.
Thank you.